The instant someone senses hesitation in you, they believe the battle is already decided. The moment doubt flickers across your face, their posture expands, their voice grows sharper, and they lean forward as if the space itself belongs to them. They invade distance, extend their stare, and press their presence against your silence, hoping your mind collapses before your words even begin to form. Intimidation rarely has anything to do with truth. It is pressure wrapped in theater. It is a performance designed to force movement before reflection. Picture a common scene. Someone stands across from you with a heavy tone and aggressive rhythm. Their sentences come quickly. Their voice cuts through the air. Their energy feels overwhelming. Most people respond instinctively. They rush to defend themselves. They talk faster than they think. They over-explain their intentions. They scramble to prove competence in the middle of tension. And in doing so, they unknowingly surrender control. Pressure survives on reaction. It feeds on emotional motion. Each flinch strengthens the other person's confidence. Each hurried response signals that the push is working. But imagine a different response. Imagine that the moment pressure arrives, you do not shrink and you do not fight. You simply become still. No raised voice, no defensive explanation, no anxious smile, only calm eyes and quiet posture. Suddenly, the entire rhythm collapses. The aggressor expected resistance or panic. Instead, they meet steadiness. Their performance loses its stage. Their pressure finds no surface to land on. Without confrontation, the balance of power begins shifting toward you. Intimidation is rarely real strength. Genuine strength does not need to crowd your space or crush your voice. Most intimidation is a shortcut tactic. It is a psychological shove intended to rush your thinking and weaken your footing before reason enters the room. Many people walk directly into this trap without realizing it. They believe they are defending themselves, but in reality they have stepped inside someone else's frame. Their reactions follow the script written for them. The moment you understand that intimidation is a performance, the game changes. You stop being the audience and become the empty theater. Every intimidation attempt depends on a stage. There is always an expected reaction waiting in the wings. The aggressor hopes for visible movement, a defensive explanation, a quick denial, a sarcastic comeback. Even anger works for them because anger confirms engagement. Reaction is applause. When you remove applause, the show begins to collapse. Most people react quickly because tension triggers urgency inside the body. Heart rate rises, speech accelerates, thoughts race toward resolution. The nervous system tries to close the uncomfortable moment as fast as possible. Unfortunately, that speed gives the aggressor leverage. Stillness breaks that tempo. When someone presses against you with emotional force, resist the instinct to answer immediately. Let the moment stretch. Hold your posture steady. Let the air remain quiet for a few seconds longer than feels natural. Silence becomes your first move rather than your last. Your shoulders remain level. Your breathing slows instead of rising. Your eyes stay focused but relaxed. You are not glaring. You are simply unmoved. This stillness communicates something powerful without language. It signals that the pressure has failed to disturb your center. Most people who rely on intimidation have never practiced dealing with calm resistance. They are prepared for argument. They are ready for emotional turbulence. But composure confuses them. When their force meets an unmoving presence, something unexpected happens inside their mind. Attention shifts inward. Instead of pushing forward, they begin evaluating themselves. Am I pushing too far? Why are they not reacting? Do I look foolish right now? That internal questioning drains their momentum. The energy they aim toward you circles back into their own awareness. Their voice may hesitate. Their posture may lose certainty. Your expression matters more than your words during this moment. Avoid exaggerated reactions. No smirking. No exaggerated seriousness. Neutrality carries more authority than theatrical confidence. Think of a calm judge listening carefully in a courtroom. Attentive, balanced, difficult to read. Allow the other person to speak into that neutrality. Performers without feedback become uncomfortable quickly. Another critical factor is control of small movements. Fidgeting hands, shifting feet, adjusting clothing repeatedly. These signals reveal internal tension. Even when your words are strong, restless motion undermines them. Stillness projects control. Power is often measured through visible stability rather than inner sensation. Even if tension exists internally, minimizing outward movement creates the perception of strength. Many people fear that pausing will make them appear uncertain. In reality, pauses signal authority. Skilled negotiators pause. Leaders pause. Individuals with high status often allow silence to exist before speaking. Quick responses are common. Measured responses are rare. Rarity creates gravity. When you finally speak after allowing the moment to breathe, your words land with more weight. The space before them builds anticipation. The silence turns your response into a decision rather than a reflex. Remember this simple principle. If you refuse to react, their performance dies. You are not ignoring reality. You are removing their stage lighting. Without reaction, intimidation loses oxygen. The encounter stops being emotional combat and becomes psychological imbalance. The aggressor begins operating without rhythm. Their script no longer works. And in that quiet shift, control begins moving toward you. Before continuing further, hold on to this mental reflex. When pressure appears, stillness comes first. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is structure. Because when reaction disappears, intimidation collapses into nothing more than noise. Pressure becomes powerful when it remains broad, loud, and undefined. The person trying to dominate you throws statements forward like blunt objects. Their words sound heavy, absolute, and final. They do not want examination. They want momentum. If you rush to defend yourself, you enter their rhythm. You spend your energy blocking instead of analyzing. The moment you begin explaining too quickly, you surrender the advantage. The most effective response is not louder resistance. It is precision. Instead of arguing, you turn the spotlight around. You make them explain their own claim. Calm questions dismantle emotional force faster than aggressive rebuttals ever could. When someone is forced to clarify their words, the emotional weight behind them begins to leak away. Many intimidation attempts rely on vague accusations. Statements like, "You always mess things up," "Everyone knows you cannot handle this," or "This is a terrible decision" sound strong because they appear final. But they often collapse when examined closely. Speak calmly and ask for clarity. What exactly do you mean by that? Which part specifically concerns you? Based on what evidence? Walk me through your reasoning. These questions are not attacks. They are illumination. Each one is like turning on another light in a dark room. Shadows look frightening only until they are fully lit. The tone of your voice is critical here. Deliver each question with grounded curiosity rather than challenge. Curiosity disarms where confrontation inflames. When your voice sounds investigative rather than defensive, the aggressor cannot easily accuse you of fighting. You are not arguing. You are examining. This shift forces them into explanation mode. Explanation is slower than accusation. It demands thought instead of impulse. And the moment someone begins explaining, their emotional advantage begins to shrink. There is a psychological law operating beneath this exchange. The person who must keep supplying reasons, details, and justification begins spending status energy. They work harder while you remain calm and steady. Cognitive load rises. Their speech may become less fluid. Small contradictions may appear. Meanwhile, you continue asking simple questions that narrow the focus. Start with a broad request for explanation and gradually tighten the scope. What specifically is the issue? Which result are you worried about? Where did that information come from? What outcome would you prefer instead? Each question removes exaggeration. Each layer reveals assumptions hidden beneath their pressure. Intimidation often survives on emotional overstatement. Specificity dissolves exaggeration. As their explanation grows longer, inconsistencies appear naturally. People speaking from emotional momentum rarely maintain perfect logic for long. Do not rush to point out those contradictions immediately. Let them continue speaking. Silence after their answer often encourages additional details. Human beings dislike quiet space in conversation. When silence appears, many people rush to fill it with more information than they originally intended to reveal. Your posture during this exchange should remain composed and receptive. Maintain steady eye contact. Slightly tilt your head as if listening carefully. Avoid excessive nodding or rapid signals of agreement. You are attentive, not submissive. Keep your breathing slow enough that your voice never rises in pitch. Vocal steadiness signals emotional control. Emotional control communicates that you are not under threat. This questioning approach protects your own mind as well. When you focus on analysis instead of reaction, your thinking remains clear. Instead of asking yourself how to defend your pride, you ask what is actually being claimed here. That mental shift alone reduces emotional tension. It places your attention on facts rather than feelings. Remember the principle: when pressure must explain itself, it shrinks. You are not dodging the confrontation, you are dissecting it. And once intimidation is dissected, it rarely survives intact. Another important adjustment involves tempo. Intimidation thrives on urgency. The person applying pressure wants everything to move quickly. Fast answers, fast concessions, fast emotional reactions. They compress the moment so tightly that you feel you must respond immediately. Speed clouds judgment. Speed creates mistakes. Your counter is deliberate pacing. Slow your speech, slow your gestures, even slow your breathing. Controlled tempo signals internal command. When people feel threatened, their nervous system accelerates. Words come out quickly, sentences overlap, pitch rises, breathing becomes shallow. All of these signals reveal stress even if the arguments themselves are sound. A measured cadence changes perception dramatically. Slow speech suggests certainty. It tells others that you are not being rushed. Begin by regulating your breathing. Inhale quietly through your nose and speak as the breath leaves your body. This naturally lowers vocal pitch and reduces speed. Lower tones often sound more credible and composed. You are not attempting to sound dramatic. You are aiming for grounded presence. Imagine each sentence has weight. You place it carefully rather than throwing it quickly. Insert small pauses between ideas. These pauses should not feel awkward. They should feel intentional. The brief space before answering a challenging remark builds gravity. It demonstrates that your words are chosen rather than pushed by emotion. When you pause, the other person must wait inside their own tension. Waiting weakens their emotional surge. Their momentum begins fading while your composure becomes more visible. Your physical movement should mirror this calm tempo. Avoid fast hand gestures, finger pointing, or abrupt shifts in stance. These movements communicate agitation. Instead, use economical gestures. One small hand movement instead of several. one posture adjustment rather than constant shifting. High-status presence is usually quiet and movement. Stillness often signals confidence. Contrast plays in your favor here. Aggressive behavior appears chaotic when placed beside calm pacing. When one person moves quickly and loudly while the other remains steady and unhurried, observers instinctively assign stability to the slower presence. Stability reads as strength. Speed often reads as strain. This does not mean becoming sluggish or dull. Controlled pacing is not laziness. Your words must remain clear and precise. Slow means deliberate, not tired. If you notice your speaking speed increasing, shorten your sentences. Short statements are easier to deliver with calm authority. This pacing shift produces another benefit inside your body. Tempo and emotion are connected. When your movements slow down, your nervous system receives signals that the situation is manageable. That feedback loop reduces stress and sharpens your thinking. Keep this principle in mind. Pressure tries to accelerate. Authority slows the moment down. When your tempo remains steady, intimidation loses one of its strongest tools. The aggressor can no longer rush you into reaction. Instead, they must operate within your pace. And when someone begins adapting to your tempo, control has already begun shifting in your direction. Human interaction is never guided by words alone. Distance, posture, and positioning constantly shape the invisible structure beneath a conversation. Anyone attempting intimidation often begins by claiming space before claiming authority. They move closer than necessary. They lean forward. They expand their physical presence in subtle ways that make you feel crowded. Each inch of distance they steal quietly signals dominance. Most people retreat automatically. They step back without noticing. They angle their shoulders away. They shrink their physical footprint to reduce tension. But those small movements transfer power. Each backward step becomes a silent concession. Control of space begins with awareness of your own ground. Plant your feet naturally at shoulder width, balanced, not rigid. Let your weight distribute evenly. This simple stance stabilizes your entire posture. When your base is grounded, your voice steadies and your breathing becomes deeper. Narrow footing often leads to subtle swaying and unconscious retreat. A stable base communicates readiness without aggression. If someone moves closer into your personal zone, resist the reflex to step away immediately. Most intimidation strategies depend on automatic retreat. Instead, remain where you are for a moment. Hold your ground calmly. Often the other person becomes aware that they crossed a boundary and adjusts their distance on their own. Your torso orientation matters as well. Keep your chest open and square rather than angled away. Turning your body signals withdrawal. Facing forward signals presence. This does not mean staring someone down like a challenger. It simply means remaining fully engaged rather than partially exiting with your posture. Use small adjustments instead of retreats. A subtle forward lean from the hips can neutralize someone else's advance without appearing aggressive. Engagement feels confident. Withdrawal appears vulnerable. Objects in the environment can also support spatial balance. A table edge or chair can create a natural boundary without confrontation. Positioning yourself beside a subtle barrier prevents crowding while keeping the conversation civil. You are not hiding behind objects. You are shaping the interaction field. Head position silently communicates emotional state. When people feel pressured, they often drop their chin or lift it defensively. Both gestures reveal tension. Keep your chin level. A level head position suggests neutrality and self-command. Relax your shoulders rather than lifting them or letting them collapse. Balanced shoulders project grounded authority. Pair this posture with steady eye contact that feels natural rather than hostile. Think of your gaze as an anchor rather than a weapon. Occasional breaks in eye contact are normal, but avoid rapid darting glances that suggest discomfort. Maintaining your spatial ground increases the psychological cost of intimidation. When someone senses that forcing you backward requires effort, their impulse to dominate weakens. Holding space quietly communicates that escalation will not be easy. Another powerful tactic is emotional non-investment. Many intimidation attempts rely on emotional hooks. A remark may be designed to provoke anger, embarrassment, pride, or the need to prove yourself. These hooks are invitations. Strategic indifference declines them. Indifference does not mean ignorance. It means choosing carefully what deserves your emotional energy. When a provocative comment lands and finds no emotional reaction, it loses its leverage. The first step happens internally. Instead of absorbing the remark personally, categorize it mentally. That is pressure. That is bait. That is posturing. Labeling the behavior creates distance between the stimulus and your feelings. Distance creates choice. Without that gap, emotion drives behavior automatically. With that gap, you decide whether the comment deserves engagement at all. Your facial expression should remain naturally calm. Avoid exaggerated seriousness or forced smiles. Overmanaging your expression appears artificial. Think relaxed neutrality. If a response is required, keep it short and low temperature. Simple acknowledgments often work best. I hear you. Noted. That is your perspective. These replies neither fight nor agree. They absorb the comment without feeding it. Expectation plays a huge role here. The aggressor anticipates visible resistance, apology, or discomfort. When none appears, their internal prediction model fails. Humans rely heavily on predicting reactions during social exchanges. When those predictions fail, confidence drops. They may attempt to escalate briefly, but without emotional reward, escalation becomes exhausting. Observe your micro-signals carefully. Defensive laughter, sharp tone, or sarcastic replies reveal engagement even when your words sound calm. True indifference is smooth. Your voice should remain steady like level water rather than choppy waves. This approach also protects your thinking. Emotional hooks narrow attention. Strategic detachment keeps your mental field wide. You remain capable of evaluating the situation clearly rather than being pulled into it. Indifference toward provocation does not mean tolerating abuse. Calm detachment is about refusing emotional manipulation. If a genuine boundary is crossed, you can state it briefly and without anger. Calm boundaries often carry more authority than heated arguments. Attention is currency. Every emotional reaction spends it. When you stop paying, manipulative tactics lose funding. Another advanced move involves calibrated agreement. Many confrontations trap people inside a false choice: fight back or surrender, argue or submit. But a third option exists. You can acknowledge a small piece of what was said without surrendering your position. A statement like, "I understand why you might see it that way," or "I can see your concern," recognizes perception without granting authority. The aggressor expects resistance. Partial acknowledgement interrupts that expectation. Recognition lowers emotional friction. It does not mean agreement with their conclusion. It simply acknowledges that their viewpoint exists. Follow the acknowledgement with a calm anchor statement if necessary. I hear that perspective. My decision remains the same. This sequence removes confrontation while preserving control. Selective agreement shows confidence because it proves you are not threatened by someone else's opinion existing near yours. Finally, there is the exit. Every intense interaction eventually reaches a closing moment. The way you leave determines how the entire encounter is remembered. Many people remain too long in conflict. They circle the same arguments repeatedly. Intimidators often try to prolong tension because extended interaction increases the chance you will react emotionally. Once your position is clear, disengage calmly. Your final sentence should be short and steady. Something simple such as "we will revisit this later," or "my decision stands" communicates closure without hostility. Your movement afterward matters. Do not rush away abruptly. Gather your belongings calmly. Straighten your posture. Walk at a natural pace. Unhurried motion signals certainty. Maintain composure until you are fully outside the interaction. Small gestures like sighing, muttering, or shaking your head after turning away weaken the impression of control. Silence after leaving is also important. Do not immediately send follow-up messages driven by adrenaline. Time distance allows your calm exit to define the memory of the encounter. Observers tend to remember endings strongly. The person who leaves composed is usually perceived as the one who held control, regardless of how tense the conversation became earlier. Walking away calmly also strengthens your own psychology. Each composed departure trains your mind to associate pressure with control rather than fear. Dominance is not proven by forcing continuation. It is proven by choosing conclusion. The individual who can disengage without agitation demonstrates freedom of position. Intimidation only succeeds when it enters your nervous system. When it accelerates your pulse, scrambles your thinking, and forces reaction. But once you understand its mechanics, its power fades. Stillness interrupts the performance. Questions expose exaggeration. Slow tempo dissolves urgency. Grounded posture protects space. Indifference neutralizes emotional hooks. Calibrated agreement redirects conflict. And calm departure closes the encounter on your terms. You do not defeat intimidation by overpowering it. You defeat it by becoming unreachable to its pressure. When someone tries to dominate the next time, remember you are not there to win a shouting contest. You are there to hold your frame. Let them spend the energy. Let them perform. Let them chase reactions that never arrive. Because the most unsettling presence in any tense moment is the person who refuses to be moved. Calm turns pressure inside out, and the person who remains calm becomes the one no one can intimidate.